Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of UpWell The Podcast. I'm Sarah. This is Katie, and we are so happy you're here. And we are laughing because off camera we have lots of fun little moments before we start rolling, and
The blooper reels are going to be amazing.
yeah, we were talking about underwear and what we would wear if it was societally acceptable not to wear clothes. So
Nothing.
something to think about, all of you. If you didn't have to wear certain clothes,
Yeah.
what would you wear?
What would you wear?
What extent of clothing would you choose?
Right?
Anyway, this episode's coming out at the very end of April, so we're about 4 months into the year, and spring has sprung. It's beautiful in the Midwest, and hopefully it is wherever you guys are tuning in. What you got coming up in May, girlfriend?
I'm finishing up a big partnership with work, which I'm super excited about. Kind of wrapping that up into a nice, neat little package and bow and sending it off on its way. And then looking forward to getting back into training for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai.
Awesome.
Getting back to going for walks outside. Really just kind of reconnecting with all the things that bring me peace.
Yeah, I love that because I think that's such an important part of spring and summer in general. It's like you just feel refreshed. Like it's nicer outside, everything's greener, everything just feels a little bit better. So I think it's a lot easier to find those moments too. And I like that you said you're kind of wrapping things up because I think May for a lot of people is kind of like a month of completion, don't you think? Like school years are ending, like you have a contract ending with something you're doing for work. Like there's just, it's kind of that transition. So we've got a couple weeks obviously before the end of May, but I think it's fun to start thinking about.
Yeah, and with the last weekend in May being kind of deemed the kickoff of summer, that weekend, which can be a big weekend that a lot of people look forward to, with it being, Memorial Day weekend and kind of that long holiday weekend, and people using it as more of a celebration than what it's truly meant to be. But like that's kind of a big, kind of the big turning point for a lot of people. Like school year's done, kids are out of school.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah, and we do celebrate Memorial Day usually. I mean, we get together. There's always somebody throwing some sort of party or a barbecue. Usually people have that, like you said, an extended weekend away from work. So, yeah, so that kind of leads us to our topic, actually, because we've been getting a lot of questions from our family, friends, community, all of you guys, people that are curious about our own personal sobriety journeys. So we are just going to be really transparent and conversational today because we're just going to talk about our own struggles maybe and some of the things we experienced with alcohol use and just some of the takeaways that we have each had from giving it up. So
yeah,
I want to know, I'm going to start with asking Katie, when you quit drinking, and even if you weren't necessarily thinking that you wanted to at that point, kind of what that experience looked like, and I'm sure you remember it like mine, and just walk us through kind of what you were thinking, what you were going through, and how it happened.
I've actually had a few different periods throughout my adulthood where I stopped drinking, to where I actually drank quite a bit when I was 19, turning into 20, and then I had an experience when I was 19 that involved a dog, of all things. That it was a moment to where I was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I was drinking at the time to fit in. And so I stopped for quite a while. I did go out for my 21st birthday. But never was really a big drinker. And then I went through a couple of different, let's say, quote unquote, like party phases of life. But most recently, my most recent one, the last drink I had was Christmas Eve of 2017.
Wow.
And it was a single shot that I took that night. And I was just, once I took it, I in my head that night knew, I think, kind of at a very subconscious level, that was going to be the last time I ever had alcohol.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's similar to kind of my experience, which I really didn't think about it prior to that moment. I used alcohol in a lot of ways. I used it to loosen up and fit in. I used it to be more comfortable. I used it to stand out and be loud. It was usually for good purposes, whether that was some sort of celebration, or just for fun. But I did recognize toward the end, once I became more aware of how much I was drinking at certain times, I'm like, maybe I am not fully experiencing things. Maybe, because I would have moments of, I don't remember that last night, or I would send a text and I didn't know until the next day when I woke up. And so it was more and more of those moments kind of compounding that led to my final drink, as you will, kind of like yours, where I had a glass of wine the day before my birthday with a girlfriend, and I remember holding it up and I looked at it and I said, this is the last drink I'm ever going to have. And we both kind of giggled. Neither one of us are big drinkers, but we were celebrating my birthday and just for fun. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, I'm going to do it another day. And so my birthday is July 2nd. So I made it through July 4th weekend. And I was like, I think I can keep doing this. And then the longer I went without a drink, the better I felt.
The shift that happens without the feeling of needing to fit in social settings, to feel empowered and very comfortable with saying, no, I'm good. No, I don't drink. No, I'm good. And drinking your bottle of water or your lemonade or whatever, to me, it became, the more I did it, the more empowering it was.
Definitely.
I never had the urge, I went through long spans throughout even my late 20s, to where I didn't drink. I wouldn't drink for years. I was a bartender for 10 years even, and there was years that went by that I didn't drink even as a bartender. And to some people, they're like, what? Yeah. But drinking was never something that I felt good when I did. Even with one drink, it never loosened me up. It never made me feel like let go of my inhibitions, anything like that. If anything, it almost kind of had a reverse effect on me. Yeah. It made me very anxious. It made me very paranoid in a way. And there were certain points in my life to where when I was drinking, in a way, I think to kind of just kind of go along with the crowd, because I didn't know myself very well at that time. Yeah. I was still searching for who I was. I would drink, but I would ultimately find myself in some very dangerous situations. Yeah. And that was, looking back on that now, that is a huge reason why I let it go. And just, I will say it, I'm a bit of a control freak. Those that know me, especially
I don't believe it.
Especially my family members and my loved ones, they're going to be laughing at that at that statement. But I don't like not feeling like I'm in control. Yeah. And that, I think, is the biggest thing for me with alcohol, that it was no longer serving its purpose. I don't know that it ever had a purpose for me, but that was a big one for me, that I just don't like the feeling of not being in control of what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's powerful. And going back to that, I had a lot of the similar feelings, because I'm not necessarily a control freak, but I learned that I was giving my trust away by not trusting myself. Okay. This sounds weird. I guess I would, drink to way past the point where I needed to stop. And I trusted everyone around me. And, usually I tried not to put myself in dangerous situations, but you never know. You're with friends or family, or, obviously if I'm with my husband, I feel safe and secure. But if you're in a new environment and you're in a new place, you're with people, you just never really know. And if you don't remember things that are happening and you aren't fully present, like you said, if you're out of control in that moment, it's like, A, what are you missing? You could be potentially missing out on something, or you're putting yourself at risk, you know, in a dangerous situation. So it was a big part of my sobriety journey, was learning to trust myself again and not put myself in those situations.
Yeah, one of the most or the most kind of prominent memory that I have was, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was out with a girl who I wasn't very good friends with, and we ended up going to a party in Kentland, Indiana. Now, if you've ever heard of Kentland, Indiana, the population, I think, is like 100.
They have more fireworks stands than people there.
Yeah, okay. Kentland is this tiny little little place. I ended up in a party there where I only knew the one person. Well, she ended up leaving. So I ended up at this party not knowing
anybody.
And I'm in the middle of a freaking forest at this party. And there was, and I had too much to drink. And Mom, I'm sorry.
I
know. I'm just going to preface this first with Mom, I'm sorry, because my mom does not know this story. And this was years ago. I mean, years and years, like probably close
to the evolution of Katie.
The evolution of Katie. There was this moment of clarity where I was just like, where the fuck am I? And yes, I just dropped an F-bomb, but where am I? And I managed to find my car. And paying attention to when I would ride along with my parents on road trips to different places, I managed to find an intersection that I recognized.
Wow.
And I feel like I had angels on guiding me that day. It was the middle of the night. I had an intersection that I remembered, and I managed to, and luckily my car at the time had a compass, and I just kept driving north.
Yeah.
Because I knew where I had started off was south of where I had been, and I told myself, if I just keep driving north, I will run into something. Jeez. And I found an intersection that I remembered where I was. I white-knuckled it home or to a friend's house. I don't even remember where I was. But yeah, that was the scariest moment, to where here I was at this party where I didn't know anybody, and I'm completely by myself, and I'm drunk, and I drove drunk, which was dumb, and I admit to that being, very stupid. I very rarely drove intoxicated. I was pretty smart about that. But this was one of those moments where I did, and it was just stupid.
Yeah, so scary. And I think so many people can relate, I'm sure, that are watching this, because most people have had one, if not numerous, scenarios like that, where it's dangerous for themselves, dangerous for other people. You wake up in the morning and you're like, what was I thinking? And I think that was a big part of my sobriety, was a compound of those moments. I mean, when I say a lot of those moments, I'm not saying that lightly. Like, I had a ton of those times where I woke up really disappointed in myself, really feeling bad mentally and physically, and to me, it came down to such this big disconnection. Like, there was such a disconnection from who I was acting as and who I wanted to be or who I could be. And once I started to realize that, and I kind of started drinking less, I did not, my last drink was a cold turkey moment, but before that, it was a very gradual, laying off, if you will, because I used to drink hard alcohol, I drank rum and vodka and all the things.
I was a whiskey girl. Whiskey was my drink of choice.
Yep. And then I kind of switched to wine. And to me, it was like, well, I'm aging, so this is the sophisticated thing to do. Like, I'm going to drink Merlot, and I don't even know that I loved it, So that was the thing too, is I started to recognize all the patterns, all the things that had gotten me to where I was with my relationship with alcohol. I used it in these various ways, whether it was to feel more confident in the environment I was in, or to relax, or to even just feel like I fit in. A lot of times that's where it started. I think most teenagers, that's kind of how they begin their drinking, in the first place, is it's like, everybody else is doing it, so now I have to do it. So, anyway.
I have a funny story about that, actually.
I like funny stories.
my very first time I got drunk was my senior prom. Yeah, I was a senior prom.
That's so sweet.
Senior prom. It was the first time I got drunk.
I won't tell you because my mom is watching this, so she won't want to know when this occasion was.
Sorry, Mom.
I was not a senior, unfortunately. Continue.
You were much younger.
I had a lot of older friends.
Yeah, I was a senior in high school. It was my senior prom, and I got drunk on gin.
Ugh. Never again she drank gin.
Never.
Oh.
To this day, even the smell of it brings flashbacks. However, you want to know who held my hair?
Who?
Your cousin Kate.
If you're watching this, Katie, I know. That is awesome.
Yeah, a small world, right?
That's
yeah,
funny.
she was an absolute angel.
She still is.
That night. Yeah, absolute angel that night for me. But
I forgot you guys went to school together.
Yeah, we went to high school together. But yeah, that was my first time getting drunk, and I even thought, like, after the fact, I was like, why do people do this?
Literally.
Like, why do people want to feel?
I know. That was me
like
every weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend. I wish I could go back and add up all the hours that I wasted, like, just feeling like trash. Absolute garbage. I wish I could add those hours up. Actually, no, I don't, because I think I would feel really terrible about myself about all that time and wish I could get it back. But speaking on that story, I think everybody has that, like, one alcohol that they're like, never again. Mine is UV blue. UV blue makes me nauseous just thinking about it. I don't even like the color blue because of that.
Have you ever seen on Instagram reel where the girl thought she took a lemon drop and she's like, I thought it was a lemon drop, but it's tequila. And she's like
gagging.
And that is the epitome, I think, of everybody who's ever had a type of alcohol that they'll never touch again. And
Yep. And actually, I can't smell like Red Bull because it makes me think of Jaeger bombs, and those were like the thing for a long time.
I worked for Jaeger.
Oh God. But even like the smell of like an energy drink, I'm like, oh no, I gotta go. I can't even be around people that drink like Monsters and Red Bulls because that's the only thing I can smell.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's horrible.
Sorry, we're gagging on the microphones today. Hope nobody takes that.
What have you found since you've stopped drinking that has actually that's really been like a change for you? Like what has shifted? Where have you shifted your focus then, like in social events or stuff like that?
I think the biggest and like most profound takeaway is that I've really learned to listen. Like listen to myself, listen to my intuition, listen to others. It's like I'm just so much more connected because there's not like that third party to disconnect me, if that makes sense. Like it's, to me, that was always like a buffer. And once I removed that from my conscious and from my state of being, like I just feel so much more connected, and I feel much more in tune with my body, with my life, with my inner knowing, however you want to say it. You know, it's like, I think it's like a superpower, our personal intuition and just our understanding of ourselves and understanding of our lives. And I think that drinking personally muffled that for me.
Okay.
What about you?
I think for me, like I said, I went through long stretches, quite often. I found myself in a very lonely place when I removed myself completely from the entire scene of bars or going out, anything like that. So that was a big shift for me, and I really learned to enjoy my own company. To where I found this, it was during my time of not drinking that I found that I was very much a pretend extrovert, which we've talked about in other episodes. Or I was a pretend extrovert, and I'm very much introverted. And so I really learned to enjoy my own company. And for a while, that was really lonely. I lost a lot of friends, a lot of friends. And I in a way, learned that was okay. That was okay, that if that was the only reason these people wanted to be in my life, then moving on.
I kind of thought the same thing, and I really had a mindset shift. I remember it very clearly too, because I was journaling about it, because a lot of me and my husband's mutual friends, I come from a small town. That's
Mm-hmm.
like what everybody does. That's how people socialize.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with it. Whatever, everybody do your own thing, but it just wasn't my thing anymore. So I had this realization that I'm like, just because I'm alone doesn't mean I'm lonely.
Correct.
Alone does not equal lonely. So like
Mm-hmm.
you, I just had to really enjoy my own company,
Mm-hmm.
but you learn such new things about yourself, and you find new things that you enjoy that don't make you feel like garbage,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like this whole transformational process.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because you kind of have to relearn and unlearn so many things about yourself and your life.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you aren't like a hardcore drinker, I think that can be so impactful for people
Mm-hmm.
to take a step back or take some time off, because even if you don't think you're using alcohol for a certain reason,
Mm-hmm.
if you stop using it long enough, you find that there's a reason, whether that is a societal norm reason, whether you are hiding from an emotion that you don't want to feel. There's all sorts of ways that people use alcohol, not using it that they think in a bad way, but once you remove yourself or remove it from yourself
Mm-hmm.
for an extended period of time, you start to recognize maybe the ways that you were using it that you might benefit if you chose something else in its place.
Yeah. And one thing that I actually am noticing with exactly what you just said, is that there, I feel like, is a growing number of people who are becoming alcohol free, or they're sober
Yeah.
curious, and they are really wanting to know what life's like without the alcohol. And I'm really encouraged by that, especially for somebody who's been on that, I've been on the journey now for over 5 years, and just seeing what it's done for me. I'm really happy to see that there is a shift, that you can have friends and you can go out and you can do things and you can have a good time, and you don't have to have a single drop of alcohol. It takes some time, and I think we're so socially conditioned
Yes.
to the idea that we have to have alcohol in order to feel like we can be relaxed. But the longer you go without alcohol, you begin to realize your anxiety actually starts to drop a bit. It's an
100%.
interesting correlation. At least it was for me. The less you drink,
Yeah.
because some people are like, oh, well, I need to drink to, take the edge off, or to, to relax. And it's like, but did you know that if you actually, over a prolonged period of time, stopped drinking, your anxiety would relax, and your body's going to thank you for it.
Yep. Here's your science stat for the day. 70+% of your serotonin, your happy hormone, is made in your gut. One of the best ways to destroy that, alcohol. So, it might be a temporary Band-Aid to your anxious feelings in the moment, but in the long haul, if that's what's killing the hormone that actually makes you feel good on a daily basis, if you're inhibiting your body from producing that and using it, then, in the long haul, what's worth it?
Right. I actually just watched a snippet of a podcast with Peter Atera, Dr. Peter Atera.
Okay.
I think I always mispronounce his last name. I'm really bad at pronouncing words. Anyway.
All words.
All words. I have a hard time.
No, you're not.
But he said that they have found in his research that the usage of a tracker, like a health tracker, people have become very obsessed with their sleep and how much they're sleeping, which is super funny, because me tracking my sleep was actually the reason I stopped wearing a tracker.
Me?
That's
too.
That was
Next episode.
So we'll talk about that sometime. But people are wearing trackers, and they're tracking how much they sleep, and they're finding that on the nights they drink, how disruptive their sleep is. Well, they have found that a certain amount of alcohol is actually going to make your sleep worse, even though most people think of it as a relaxant. It's actually doing the complete opposite to your body, and it's causing your body to, in a sense, feel like it needs to be awake, to where then you're getting this terrible night of sleep, which then night after night after night after night, it compounds, and then that leads to other issues in the body, diseases and illnesses that can go on. So it was an interesting stat, and he said that the growing number of people that do wear some sort of tracker to track their sleep are now starting to step away from the alcohol, because they're finding they see the correlation. And whether you want to believe it or not, sleep is your golden ticket to health.
100%.
Sleep is your golden ticket to health.
I tell all my clients, sleep is king. You can eat right, you can move your body every day, but if your sleep is garbage, that controls everything that happens in your body. We will do a full episode on sleep, that is for sure.
Yeah, and so I'm encouraged by the fact that there is a large, in a sense, societal shift happening in regards to drinking. And I feel like it's kind of like the societal shift that happened in regards to smoking. I don't see as many smokers anymore as I used to, and maybe there still are, but for me, I don't see as many.
I think that is a lot to do with the scientific studies that have come out, because you remember like long ago, you've seen the old advertisements like doctors smoking, like there was no problem with it. It was fine for your health. And then,
or the guy riding the bicycle and he was smoking a cigarette 100%. And it was going to make him go faster or something like that.
Yeah. So I think it was glamorized, same as alcohol for a long time. And then, scientific studies started coming out, people were being harmed. And now that information went mainstream and people were like, oh, maybe this isn't as good for me. So, the smoking movement, kind of narrowed down. I only see people smoking, for the most part, that are of that older generation that probably started when they were really young and it still wasn't taboo or dangerous for your health. Whereas I think the same thing with alcohol is kind of happening, to where now we do have studies that show, they used to say X amount of drinking was okay for you, this is fine. And now anything that I've read, and we won't go into all the science of it, but I've been researching for a while, and there's really no amount of alcohol that is positive for your body. They talk about polyphenols in red wine and things like this, but the alcohol outweighs the negative of that. So you're not really getting anything positive out of it. So I think as that information starts to really come out to the public, I think more and more people will become sober curious or see, like you said, what their life is like with either lesser alcohol consumption or the removal of it completely. I want to talk about really quick another thing that has been amazing to me is the financial gain.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people fail to look at how much they actually are spending. Like, for instance, if Adam and I were to go out to dinner, we would share an appetizer, get a couple drinks, and have our main course or whatever, and it would be X amount of dollars, sometimes kind of high depending on where you're going. And then, once I stopped drinking, it literally would be like half the cost. It was insane, because drinking usually even leads you to being hungrier, which we'll talk about the science of that in another episode too. But, then we would want dessert, or we would stay for another drink at the bar after. Like, it was never, it wasn't just like we could I could just have a glass of wine and be done for the night. It snowballed. And then, I kind of just started paying attention financially after I quit drinking, because I was curious to see. And I could not believe the money that I was saving.
Yeah, and as a bartender, I saw that on a regular basis, how much money people would spend, and then how much money, or how much people would bitch about not having money.
Oh, 100%.
When they're spending $80, $90 at the bar, 2 to 3 nights every weekend. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a third of your...
Yep. And I think coming full circle with that, being aware of all that money that you're spending on something that's not going to provide any sort of positive outcome, really, in any way, and reinvesting that in yourself, in some sort of health practice, or, maybe it's yoga sessions or a massage, taking that money and utilizing it for something that's going to help you grow or feel better or improve your wellness in any form. I just think, going back to how we started this conversation, feeling empowered by those choices. And when you start to break down all the different areas that alcohol affected in your life, and you start to recognize and kind of piece the puzzle together, and you take it and can use it to empower your life, it's mind-blowing.
And the financial gain, and then the time gain.
Oh.
How much time you actually gain back, not just from the going out hours, but from the recovery hours. How many people will go out Friday and Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and then have to spend all day Sunday recovering from it, when for me now, I can spend time doing things that I enjoy, whether that's going to a training class or going for a walk or playing with my dogs or you name it. There's so many different, so many different things that you can do with that time now that are going to bring you so much more benefit into your life than having to nurse a hangover for 12 hours on the couch.
Yeah.
Feeling like shit.
Yeah, and I am really grateful for I like to travel and I like to go on different trips and do different things with friends and family and all sorts of stuff. But my most recent trips, obviously, I've been completely sober, and the amount of time that I've gained on those trips and the amount of things that I've been able to do and see because I felt amazing, I can't put a dollar amount on that. I mean, I'm getting up earlier than I would have, and I'm fully functional when I wake up. It's not like I need coffee in an hour before I can even do anything. It's like, wow, I'm in a new place. I can enjoy the scenery and the views and go do something for me or, outside, whatever that looks like. And I get to have all that experience and the extra of it.
And you're in the mind state of being able to be completely present to understand and appreciate the moment.
Yeah.
Which
100%.
I think is huge.
100%.
Which I think is huge. So,
this was like my favorite conversation.
Yeah, this was a good conversation to have. Good. And I think like I said, I think a lot of people are becoming more and more curious about it. Not just women, but I think men.
Yeah.
And men too. Drinking has always seemed, I guess for me, and maybe I'm stereotyping this, but it seemed a much more masculine, like guy dude thing to do. But I think it's coming from both sides. Both sexes are, finding that there's more to life than going out and partying and, not remembering the night very well.
I think so too. I think so too. And we hope to do some more episodes about sobriety for you guys because it's something that is very near and dear to us because we have our own personal experiences with it and our loved ones. We have quite a few of them that I would actually like to get on here and share their stories because there's some pretty amazing outcomes that they've had,
and they've overcome different
sure.
things that people have really powered through and grown from that I think would be inspiring for others.
Definitely. Well, we hope that you guys take something away from this episode, whether you just wanted to hear us talk to each other or maybe you are joining the Sober Curious Club. If you guys ever have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Katie, where can everybody find us?
So you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at UpWell The Podcast. I almost said Barefoot Katie.
That's next.
At UpWell The Podcast. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share anything that you like or see that we are putting out there. That's really helpful to get the word out to everybody. You can find myself personally at barefoot.katie. You can find Sarah at Sarah Behrens. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and the world around you. Bye.
Bye.